But look, I want to start with Arsenal tonight, just because it needs to be said. And what needs to be said tonight about Arsenal is this. That was a perfect campaign. I'm looking at the league table here. 8 games, 8 wins, 23 goals scored, plus 19 goal difference. And they toyed. They toyed with their opponents tonight. They conceded 2 goals, but I don't think Mikel Arteta is going to care. I don't think Arsenal fans are going to care. It was all about getting the job done, finishing perfectly. They'll be playing their second leg games of the knockout phase at home, which I always think gives you a tremendous advantage, especially as you can go into extra time and penalties. You'd always rather do that at home than you would away. But I thought some really good improvements from Arsenal tonight. And something I'm quite excited to see as a football fan, and that is Kai Havertz and Victor Gyokeres together. The opening goal inside the first 2 minutes is everything that Arsenal fans have been screaming for weeks. And in fairness, rivals, we all sit here. Whether you like Arsenal, hate Arsenal, or you don't care about Arsenal, we've all said very similar. The amount of times they just don't get that ball in early to Victor Gyokeres is sometimes heavily frustrating. And that was done off the bat tonight, quickly this evening, and it was of massive benefit. A bit of a sloppy first touch, but he recovers, shoots low and hard, scores and puts the ball away. They then go and concede a penalty. It was a stonewall penalty, and it was a crazy start to that game. But Arsenal went straight back up the other end, and this time again a ball early over the top into the space that was vacated. Kai Havertz and Gyokeres actually go for the same ball, but then funnel out. And Kai Havertz, who I thought had a brilliant 45 minutes, cuts on the inside, buries the ball, makes it 2-1. And then again, the third goal, some amazing, intricate play to work the ball around. A ball knocked over to Kai Havertz. He knocks it across to Gyokeres, who he actually gets the assist, Gyokeres, but the ball was going in. Martinelli stole it on the line. I'm not too sure they're going to be that bothered about it, but it was 3-1 at halftime. The second half, look, I think Arsenal were playing with them. Have you ever had a cat? You ever had a pet cat who catches a mouse and just plays with it and lets it run off and drags it back, lets it run? It was just, again, some Arsenal fans might have wanted 6, 7, 8, 9. They probably should have scored some more goals. I mean, there was a few that were missed that you're like, Jesus Christ, you've got to be putting that away. But I think that's because Arsenal took the intensity out of the game. Arsenal knew they had won. They knew they were going to finish top. There was no need to play, in my personal opinion, with a full and frank intensity for the rest of that 90 minutes. Just my view. Some people will see it differently. Can't wait to read your comments back on that. But overall tonight, it was a much better Arsenal performance. I feel that Champions League football seems to suit them more than anything else they're playing in at the moment, because teams are going for it. Teams are opening up. Teams are giving them space. And I feel had more goals been a necessity tonight, they could have done more if the intensity of the first half had remained. But Arsenal deserve a tremendous amount of praise and respect for that group phase stage of the Champions League, or the league phase, because they've had some tough opponents at home and away. And we've seen already, if you just look at tonight's fixtures, and we're going to get Benfica pulling off one of the craziest victories I've ever seen, with a goalkeeper to have been scoring in the 98th minute of the game to save their Champions League campaign. But you go through it and you see Sporting Lisbon winning away at Bilbao. You see Bodo Glimt winning away at Atletico Madrid. You see Barcelona, they come back and won 4-1, but Copenhagen gave them a great game. Benfica, I've mentioned. Club Brugge beating Marseille 3-0. Most people wouldn't predict that. Spurs winning away in Germany. Well, any others tonight? Monaco and Juve seems normal. Pathos actually won 4-1 tonight. Well done to them. Newcastle going to PSG and getting a really good result. And Sporting Chicken Goujon. Okay, Union Chicken Goujon beating Atalanta as well. The thing is with this tournament, people like to disrespect it when certain teams are scoring, when certain teams win games, but it's a very hard tournament. It is a very high quality. And something I feel that we forget often when we talk about football is that there's a difference in playing European football to playing in the Premier League or whatever league you're from. And over the years, it's changed. I remember listening to Steven Gerrard in an interview many years ago, and he said, what do you find the biggest adjustment when you play Champions League to Premier League? And he said, actually, it's because it's a lot slower at times. This was 15, 20 years ago. He said it's a lot slower. And he said, we're used to playing at a really frenetic pace, but it's hard to do that in Europe because ironically back then it's teams sit in a little bit more, a little bit cagey. If you commit too much forward, they catch you on the break a lot easier. Where in the Premier League, it used to be a bit more open and end to end. It's gone a little bit the other way now, but that's why it's such, there is a dichotomy, there is a difference, and adjusting from a Saturday to a Tuesday or a Wednesday is the big difference in this. And I feel, and as I say, I feel like Arsenal have done themselves very, very proud indeed with qualifying the way in which they have done. And for me, they are the favourites and they should be looked at as favourites. Now, not clear favourites, not nobody else can beat them, nobody else can touch them. But I think Arsenal have demonstrated their ability not just to win, but to win comfortably in every game, to barely concede goals. Are there fragility? Yes. I think handling the pressure of the quarters, the semis, and the final is definitely a question mark. But when you look at the rest of the opponents, when the English teams play each other, that's going to be the real interesting one, right? Because I don't think it will be a European game per se. But Bayern Munich, they beat very comfortably at home already. Barcelona, I think Arsenal would lick their lips at that high line, if I'm being honest with you. You've got Sporting Lisbon, who finished in the top 8. I don't think they're a massive threat to win the tournament. Real Madrid, I think Arsenal were better than them last year. I think Arsenal were still better than Real Madrid this year. PSG, of course, a big threat. But I'm, to a degree, writing PSG off. And hear me out on the logic here. I'm just basing it on winning it back-to-back is so hard. That isn't just the odds of winning it this year. It's the probability of going back-to-back. Very few teams have ever done it in 60, 78, towards 80 years. So Arsenal, for me, are the marginal favourites at this stage. Of course, Liverpool, of course, City, of course, Madrid, of course, Barca, amongst other teams, can win it. It would be stupid. It would be ridiculous. It would be embarrassing to say, no chance, no way, absolutely. I'm not going to do a Hassam and say 0% chance. We're not going to play that gimmick. We're not going to play that game. That isn't how we're going to operate here. But Arsenal, for me, have just been formidable. I mean, the fact that they've conceded 4 goals and 2 were in the final game against the worst team tells you the intensity came off. Their strongest team weren't out there. But they've been absolutely brilliant. And the one thing about Arsenal is that defence. And that defence is so hard to penetrate, so hard to beat. And as the only thing that I feel can beat Arsenal is Arsenal. I think Arsenal themselves, their fans getting too nervous, people like Brandon kicking off too much before and, you know, making the likes of Declan Rice nervous. I can see you backstage. That's why I'm saying it, Brandon, right? It's a joke, of course. I think you guys could damage your club's chances here by just not embracing it, by being not so much encouraging, but, oh my God, I'm really shitting it. Embrace it and enjoy it and encourage them because you've got a fantastic team. But yeah, I have you guys as the marginal favourites from here to go on and win it based on everything I've watched, every team I've watched. But look, it's the knockout phases. Anything can happen. A bad decision can change the night. Somebody gets sent off. All amounts of drama are going to happen as well. But what I think is very important for Arsenal, I said it at the top, and I'm going to say it again, it's that second leg at home in the quarterfinals and in the semi-finals. That, for me, is the biggest and key component. And also, not just Arsenal, but with Man City, Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool, they don't have to play those extra playoff games as well. Missing out on those extra playoff games is so important and so imperative to the other competitions that everybody is in, and more so from an Arsenal and City perspective because they're going toe-to-toe for the Premier League. Same will be for Aston Villa in the, I'm assuming they'll finish within the top 8. I think they already have in the Conference League. So they themselves will have less games to play. And I think that's very, very important that Arsenal have done that, gone out there and got it done. But as ever, look, I want your thoughts and I want your feelings. As I said, I feel that it was a nice bit of chemistry in that opening 45 minutes with Kai Havertz and Gyokeres. And I want to shout out Seb, who comes on our shows as a Gooner. He spoke about this a few weeks ago, and he's the first person I heard really speak about it at length. And he'll be on our panel, I think, later tonight, that he thinks those two could work really, really well together. And of course, there's bigger tests and harder opponents and different games and low blocks to come up against. But I thought it was very, very impressive tonight indeed. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the hype button for us as well. Now, I want to speak Chelsea tonight.